What's up, everybody? Org the Pirate here, and today we're gonna break down the proof of concept number 3 from Core. And guys, this is a big one. Oh, we're already skipping stuff I wanted to go over. I hope y'all had a wonderful Thanksgiving, but guys, it's Friday. It's time to get back to work. Let's dive right into this, and let's kind of break down this map. Now, this video, if you haven't checked it out, I will leave a link in the description. I highly recommend going and checking it out because I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into it and, you know, the good old pirate fashion and just theory craft about a ton of stuff and, you know, give my opinions. But let's break this map down first. So, first up, we have, you can see the actual buffs right here. So we have the Zetchin and the Arcane Guardian. Now these two are the jungle buffs that are located on, you know, each quarter of the map. And that's one thing, they're breaking it down into quarters of the map because it's a mirror image. That's very cool. You know, you can see the lanes, they all look the same. They've all kind of got that same verticality. You know, you've got that pathway between the Ember Collector and this jungle camp. You have it right here, you have it right here and here. So you can see it is a perfect mirror image, which they have said they want to work on getting the solo lane side a little bit different than the duo lane side. And the reason that is because of this right here. And if you look, that's Prime Guardian. So Orb Prime is located on the solo lane side next to the Nature Warden, which is going to be that sustain buff that that the solo lane needs. And then the Remnants, which is, if you're coming from Paragon, it's going to be closely related to the Fangtooth, but it's a little bit more complex than that. We'll break it down here in a minute, but you've also got this gold buff, which is called the Ember Warden. And then, you know, the middle buffs, so you've got the Swift Warden, Cosmic, Decay, and Order Wardens, which, you know, hey, Order was kind of ward, so maybe there's some type of warding minion. I don't see a Invis minion. You know, like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if they took it out, and it looks like Swift, you know, that's movement speed. Cosmic, that's probably going to be, you know, Cosmic Gideon. That's what I think of. So you got your ability damage buff right here. You've got your decay black buff or orange buff. Remember, you slowly decay that damage. And then order, maybe that's something along the lines of the last variation of black buff when it actually had that, you know, the monster that you had to kill. Interesting to see. Maybe we'll see that, but coming up you'll see we've got 2 entrances to each tower. You can see this right here. There's 2 entrances to all the towers from the jungle. And then you've also got this drop down verticality from each jungle. So that's something to definitely note. You can either come right in front of the tower or right behind the tower or jump down in the middle of the tower. And you get to see this little clip of Seraph jumping and then Shimby's walking to the pit, because remember yesterday we saw there were entrances to the pits both right here and right here, or you know, right here, I guess. It's hard to tell, but you've got the entrances to the Prime Pit and to the or Prime Pit's right here, and to the Remnants Pit. So that's very cool. You know, I'm liking the mirror image map so far, but I would like to see some uniqueness to that solo lane side jungle, because again, and it said they did say that's something that they're wanting to work on to make it a little more open, to really encourage those team fights over Prime, and we will get into Prime. I love the way they're doing Prime now. And I would like to see these towers spaced a little bit differently. You know, you maybe just scoot the T1 back a little bit to really distinguish the difference between this lane and that lane. It's just food for thought kind of thing, but let's get right into it. Now, mid lane, the reason they're glowing this right here is they're calling this kind of walkway, they're calling that the river, and that's where we're running through right now. And check this out, we get to look at Murdoch, we get to look at Steel, and look, the video we had yesterday, it was a lot more foggy. This one is crystal clear. I really like that. So instead of getting that fog of war that some other games use, or the fog walls, we've got this very, very crisp, clear map, and the reason you can't see from end to end is the map design. You know, it's hard to see through this jungle because there's so many narrow walkways. One thing I do notice is Steel looks like his moving animation. Look, I mean, he's pumping, man. But he's not moving any faster. It just looks like he's booking it, man. So maybe they'll turn down that animation. It does look a little bit too fast for me. But hey, maybe he has a movement speed buff, and let's say he does have a movement speed buff, and you can actually see that in the way he moves. He just doesn't go from 100 movement speed to 120. He actually goes to 120 and moves faster. That might be something. But let's move on. Let's keep breaking this down. I love this, guys. This looks so cool. All the little particles, like like spores from raining down from the trees above. It just looks so good. Oh, this map looks amazing, man. I'm so pumped to play this. But okay, well, let's keep going. Oh, we do get a little Gideon clip here, and again, I've kind of cut this up, pieced it together to make it a little bit easier for me to record. You can see one thing I definitely wanted to point out. Yeah, here we go. We see these health bars, and remember yesterday they were blue, now they're orange, so that they're clearly working on changing the colors of them. Maybe one side, if you're Team A, the enemy's health bars are blue, and if you're Team B, they're orange, or maybe they're just making all enemies are orange. Again, it's pre-alpha, or it's not even pre-alpha, it's proof of concept. There's a ton left to do. Okay, let's keep going. And guys, I'm ready. This looks so good. But here's where it starts. Let's get strapped in for this one. So there's going to be, they're testing now. They're testing 15 unique jungle camps. Now that means when the jungle camps spawn in here, let's go ahead and fast forward or keep playing. There's going to be 15 unique camps and 10 unique groups of jungle camps, all with unique abilities. Now they did give 2 possible minion camps that are spawning in. One is a minion camp that has 2 melee minions and 2 ranged minions. The melee minions are capable of jumping, so I'm assuming they're going to be able to like backflip over you and attack you in the back, and then you'll kind of be surrounded now. And that you just have to clear out this entire minion camp that, these melee minions attack faster and, they can avoid your abilities. But the ranged minions lob grenades at you, or they said they lobbed ranged abilities at you, and you will be able to dodge those abilities. That's very cool. So that's already giving you an interesting mechanic that you have to deal with in the jungle. Excuse me. Oh, let me get some water. It's more of that good old invisible water, baby. So the other version of this camp that they kind of teased us with is there will be 1 ranged minion and 2 melee minions. Now these melee minions have a special ability where when they basic attack you, they charge up an ability attack. So the minions will have ability attacks. And I'm assuming after, let's say 5 basic attacks, they explode and deal damage to you. Now they didn't specify if it kills the minions when they explode and you lose out on that farm or anything like that, but they did mention that. So, and then while the melee minions are alive, they provide a shield to the ranged minion. So you have to decide what type of hero you are. Can you go in there and blow up the melee minions fast enough to avoid that explosion, and then you can focus on the ranged minion? Or is the explosion, maybe they'll stack so many shields on that ranged minion, you want to burst him down fast enough, whatever. The 2 melee minions only provide shields to that ranged minions while they're alive. So this will be a mechanic that people will be able to figure out how to approach it very quickly, but it does give that kind of, little element of you have to know the jungle role to be proficient at it, and I like that. That is very, very cool. One thing they did talk about the jungle camps, though, is there's going to be 3 different types of camps. There's physical, energy, and neutral camps. And camps spawn in every 2 minutes. And they said, now this is where it gets confusing because they did not go into full detail. Now we have 6 minion camps on the map, on each side of the map. So 12 total. You know, there's, let me see, we've got this right here. You can see there are 1, 2, 3 camps. So that's 12 total camps. And if we're only getting these 3 camps that spawn in 4 at a time, it's very hard to know, are all 6 camps going to be populated at that 2-minute point, or is only 4 of them going to be, you know, spawn in. They also said the camps will be random spawns. Now, again, I've talked to a handful of people and kind of got some ideas. What I'm thinking is the physical camp and the energy camp are going to be located in specific areas. Let's say this is the physical, this is the energy camp. You know, again, this is the tinfoil hat type stuff. I need to make a little foil hat. But what I'm thinking is, yeah, you're going to have these specific camps that they only spawn in. These are the ability camps, right? These are the special unique camps. These are the 2 neutral camps. And then these are the camps that spawn in always. Maybe something like that. And then you get a random camp, like these 2 camps randomly spawn in between one of those 15 different special camps. So, you know, you might, kind of like the buffs, how the buffs used to be. You got a random chance to get one of these buffs or, you know, whatever. That might be something to consider. It's very hard to tell because it was kind of vague. But that's what I'm going to think, is there's going to be 6 camps and they spawn in randomly. But again, they did say 4 will spawn in randomly. So it's hard to tell. Another thing that they talked about was each one of these will have unique properties. Like the physical camp will take less damage from physical attacks, and the energy camp will take less damage from energy or ability-based attacks. So I'm kind of thinking this is definitely something new. This is core, kind of at its finest type thing. You know, this is the unique thing that core is bringing to the table in the jungle, and we can see here that heroes that are more ability based, maybe you might be able to see a caster running around the jungle and it actually be viable. But what I'm kind of thinking is the jungler and the mid lane will have a more unique relationship than they did in Paragon, or especially in Monolith. You know, in other MOBAs, let's just take Smite. You know, the jungler and the mid lane have a very strong relationship. You know, you help them with yellow buff, go to mid lane, and then he helps you with red buff, and then y'all try to secure, you know, the side camps together, things like that. And, you know, a lot of the time, you know, especially at higher levels, the mid laner and jungle are laning together for, you know, a good portion of the early game. So this might be something along those lines. We might start seeing that mage, or that, you know, the ability based hero run around with the jungle during those long kind of slow minion movement speed, because I really do think it's going to be a much slower movement speed on the minions compared to Monolith, especially the last variation of Monolith, because the minions were insane fast in that. So I think we will start to see a very unique relationship form between, you know, or maybe not unique, but that relationship form between the jungler and that, you know, mid lane hero. But we also have these camps, and you can see, you know, a little later on we'll see a different camp, but if you look, these minions are different colors. And you can see there's 2 of these blue ones, and then this guy's got a gun. So he's clearly that ranged hero. So these 2 right here might be the guy that is providing the shield to this one, and you have to make that choice. Do you take out that ranged minion while these 2 run around? I'm going to assume that that's how that's going to work. You know, you can identify the different types of minions by the colors that, you know, they represent. You know that this blue minion provides a shield and explodes. This guy just does a ton of damage, and if you see here, Chimera is going straight for that ranged minion, which I did, I definitely want to talk about Chimera because, Chimera doesn't have any ability damage. His ambush is a hero lock on. His ultimate is a hero lock on. That's really it. You don't have a whole lot other than that. Cole is just an attack speed boost, really. And then if you see here, we've got another one of these red minions, and, he might have a special ability. Of course, we don't see that, and we're starting to see the explosion when the minions die, so they're definitely working on that. I'm ready, guys. I am ready. Now, here we go. We've got Kalari running around the jungle, and look, we've got a blue minion, or a green minion camp now. So again, we are seeing different minion camps, and, I would think a neutral would just be a boring color, but we see this bright green. I would think this means something. I've really tried to break this down and look at it, but you don't see a whole lot happening. But one thing you do notice is that other minion is not attacking right there. You see that? So maybe there's something to that. Only 2 of these can be active at a time or something like that, or maybe it just needs a little bit more work done. Who knows? But it's definitely something to consider. We've got some of that verticality in that lane again. Man, look at this. Look at this map. This looks so good. I'm ready to play. I am ready. And here we go. We've got another one of these camps, and it's just got one blue minion in it. And again, it's very hard to speculate over these different things, but I would say the color of these minions definitely is going to have some sort of meaning for what the minions actually do. It doesn't look like this minion's doing anything special other than attacking, but, hey, that is great. And, we're starting to see combat, which is very, very nice. Now, one thing they did talk about, and this is something that if you're a Paragon player, if that's really only the MOBA that you've ever played, or maybe you've only played Paragon and Smite, this is something that is completely unique to Core in the third-person MOBA aspect, which it's not to Dota. But we'll show that you can actually stack these minion camps. Now, in the video, he talks about stacking the camps, and what you do is you attack the camp, and if you see, the minions can actually run pretty good ways out of this camp. That's kind of what they're showing off right there. I'm sure Howie's missing a bunch of abilities. Look at that rocket. It's so slow, by the way, but you can see he's kiting these minions way out of that spawn circle. Now, this is important because you will be able to kite the minions out at that specific time. So minions spawn in at 2 minutes. Let's say they spawn in every 2 minutes. So at 3 minutes and 55 seconds, you can kite those minions out of that circle, and then the next round of minions will spawn in behind them, and then just disengage, and now you've got a stacked camp. So it's got 2 rounds of minions, and that is a ton of farm. Now, another thing, if you are the hero that stacks those minions, you get a bonus. So you don't get a bonus when it happens, you get a bonus when they all die. So let's say Howitzer stacks this camp up, and then Chimera comes by and kills all the minions that are stacked up. Howitzer's going to receive a bonus of it, Ember bonus, and that is very, very cool. Now, again, a lot of y'all might not know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about stacking minions, and here it is. This is Dota, guys, and if you see here, you can see we've got this nice little timer up here that's giving you the time. We're going to go ahead and head down here, get some aggro on these minions, and then we're going to leave this spawn area. So you see we're dragging these minions away. You can see that spawn area, and then that timer hits, and boom, look at this, guys. We've spawned those minions in. Okay, so let's take another look at that, just so you get an idea. We make sure we got it right. So at 55 seconds, he's going to get aggro, and then he's got 5 seconds to move those minions out of that area and allow that next round to spawn in, and there we go. So you can see, and if you look here as well, we've got unique minions in this. So you can see there is definitely some inspiration from Dota within Core, and hey, that's great. Now let's talk about the Jungle Guardians. Now the Jungle Guardians are the jungle buffs, not the river buffs, not the laning buffs. These are specific for the jungle, and you've got the Zechen Guardian, which provides movement speed and sustain while in the jungle. That, you know, they didn't write that in there, but they say it in the video. So you'll be able to zip around the jungle, but once you get to lane, you're running at normal speed. So when you go for a gank, and, you know, let's say you're going to gank the duo lane, you're not going to be able to just zoom past them all. You know, you get to the point, you'll get to that point very quickly, you know, or a little bit faster than you normally would, but you're not, once you get in that lane, that movement speed goes away, and I like that. That's nice. You know, it's just a means of getting around the jungle quickly. We've got the Arcane Guardian, and when you kill him, he spawns in mana shards, is what they called them, and you pick those up to regain mana, and it also decreases your cooldown, which is awesome. You know, so the buffs, it looks like we're not going to have the same good old green buff that gives you the shield that guarantees you a kill when you can dive towers at level 3. You know, we're not going to have that anymore. And, you know, hey, I got to say that's nice. Now, here we are. This raptor right here is, I'm going to assume he's a placeholder right now, but he is one of the jungle buffs, one of the Zetchin buffs. And they did say that minions can spawn on top of that buff. So if you've got a minion camp where the buff spawns in, and you haven't cleared those minions out, and you hit that 4-minute timer when the buffs spawn in, he will just spawn on top of those minions. So you don't have to worry about clearing that minion camp out. But when you go to get that, you know, to actually pick up that jungle buff, you're going to have to deal with a pretty big wave of bad guys. And hey, that's very cool. You know, I think this is going to make jungling, make that high-end jungler, you know, you're going to have to pay attention to those spawn times a lot more, especially, you know, early game. You don't want to deal with an entire minion wave on top of your buff because, you know, hey, that's going to be a lot of health that you lose. So I like that aspect. It's very, very cool. Next up, we've got to talk about the Ember Collectors. Now, it's Ember, not Amber, guys. I've been calling it Amber. It's Ember. And this is an Ember Collector. Now, if you look here, it resembles a Harvester. You know, you stand on this point, and remember the thing went up in there and all that good stuff. It doesn't look like that's going to happen. It looks like you will stand in this area and naturally take it over. And that's very cool. I like that. You know, I never liked the keys. I think they were called keys. I never was a fan of the keys for the Harvesters. But look at this, guys. This looks crazy. And you see this little collector's kind of in a little dugout here, and we can see it's just like the old days. You know, you've got this bar that charges up, and whenever it charges up, boom, you got full. One thing they did talk about, though, that is very, very unique, and I think might make an incredible gameplay aspect of the game. Now, if you remember the Harvesters, there wasn't just one person that messed with the Harvesters. You know, you had the off lane, the solo lane, or the ADC. You had the side ones, and then you had a couple in the jungle, and everybody kind of messed with the Harvesters. It wasn't just the jungler's job. Well, when the Amber Link came around, it was kind of more like the jungler's job because you got that filled up the Amber by killing jungle camps, and that's the jungler's job. So this looks like a really cool aspect. Now, what they say is, you know, it will charge up. They didn't really say jungle camps will charge it up. What they definitely said is there will be special targets that randomly spawn throughout the map. And when you kill those special targets, it charges up your Ember Collector. And they did mention skill shots. So what I'm thinking, guys, is these things might spawn in the middle of the air. And, you know, Twin Blast has to shoot them out of the air. You know, or, you know, and I'm sure it's going to be specific for each lane. Like, the duo lane might have some floating in the air. The solo lane probably won't because, you know, there aren't a whole lot of ranged solo people. You know, things like that. There might be some, you know, where you have to walk up this archway and then jump off, and while you're jumping, basic attack to hit it or something like that. This is awesome. This makes the Amber, you know, this makes the Harvesters, you know, the team-wide job of Harvesters, but the convenience in just simplicity of the Amber Link. I'm a huge fan of this. It still looks like when you want to collect your amber, you're going to have to go to that point, and it looks like it can fill up. So, you know, you definitely want to make sure you're not overfilling it, because if you overfill it, you're just wasting amber or ember. But this is very cool. I'm a huge fan of this. I can't wait to see what actually is going on here. I love this. This is a team-wide farming thing like the harvesters. You know, if y'all remember in my last video, I kind of said I wasn't a huge fan of the harvesters. This looks like a huge improvement upon that aspect. I'm a big fan of it. Here we go. We've got Kalari back in that same spot where the collector is, and now she's heading over to this green camp, and you can see there's another green camp. So from here, let's talk about the remnants. Let's see, what's the name of these things? Remnants. Yeah, there we go. Let's talk about the remnants, and here we go. We're going to head over to the remnant pit, and check this out, guys. It's a Fangtooth, and they did mention there are going to be 4 different types of remnants, and each one of them will give a unique buff. I even wrote down the different buffs. Let me see if I can find that. Well, so one's a movement speed, one's a dot damage, one's a ability damage, and you know, I gotta look it up now. It's driving me crazy. So, but again, we're going to get these buffs that are permanent buffs, just like Fangtooth. But they did mention that it's going to be much less. It's not going to be a game changer. It's not going to be, oh wow, you got Fangtooth, the game's over. You know, or you got 2 Fangtooths, the game's over. It's going to be much different than that. And okay, let's see. I wrote it down somewhere. Sorry, my bad, guys. But you are going to have 4 of these different buffs, and they do stack. So let's say if 4 movement speed ones spawn in back to back, and you get all 4 of them, you're going to have 4 of those buffs. That is absolutely awesome. I really, really like that. But, you know, the chances of 4 of them spawning back to back and you getting them uncontested is not heard of. You know, that shouldn't be heard of. If it is, you know, that's a little matchmaking issue. But I think that is just an absolute awesome idea. You know, I'm an absolute huge fan of these permanent buffs that you're going to get. And these objectives are going to be team-based objectives. They said they will require multiple people over there, because look at the damage Chimera was getting. You know, of course he is level 2, but I mean, you know, he's getting 5-shot by this thing. And, you know, so at level 2, Chimera can't solo it like he could with Fang. And, you know, that's pretty significant. Now, one thing we see here, I want to point this out. Look, you can see the mana bar of your ally. I think that's awesome. That way you can go, I know Steel has his ult, why didn't he use it? Or you can say, hey, we can actually pick this fight based on, you know, our front lines mana or our supports mana, things like that. And you don't need that communication with your team. You don't need to go, oh, I hope Muriel has a shield. You can just look and go, oh yeah, she has enough mana for at least 1 shield. Let's try to make something happen. I love that. You know, it's just a small little tidbit. I hope they keep that in the map, or you know, in the actual final game. I think that'd be great. And you can actually see health here. You know, actual health numbers of that's very, very cool. You know, we did see Chimera right there. Let's see. We do see Chimera right here, and he just disappears. I don't know if he died or, you know, they just removed him. So you could see that, you know, Fang will chase you. But another thing, again, like I said yesterday, there is this pit. You see all the eggs broken around. I thought there were dead bodies yesterday. But you see all the eggs, and this is a pit. You know, there's entrances on both sides, but this is a very dangerous place to be. Once you jump down here, this is dangerous, guys. You know, you are in trouble when it comes to, you know, the enemy coming in. You know, you need to make sure, maybe ward placement, things like that. You know, that would be absolute key in, you know, taking these objectives, because again, it sounds like Core wants to make these big objectives like this a fundamental part of the game. They want to base team fights around them. You know, you can tell that just by the way they have it arranged with the entrances and, you know, this very dangerous pit. You know, where Twin Blast is right now, he's safe. You know, he can escape a lot easier, but, you know, the enemy team will come behind him. You know, there's only 3 locations, and one location, the big location, is right behind him. So the enemy team could kill him without ever even engaging in the Fangtooth or into the Revenant, into the buff. And I think that's huge. You know, that's big. That's going to make positioning key, and, you know, no matter what, you're always in a dangerous position, and I like that. I'm a huge fan of this. And, you know, this just looks so good. I'm definitely interested in getting into those team fights around the pits and everything like that. But after that, we got to talk about Prime. Now, Prime is awesome. I absolutely love the way they're doing Prime. And if you see here, when you kill Prime, Prime gives a buff to your entire team that increases a team's recall time. Recall time. You get recall time from Prime. How cool is that? So you kill Prime, go back to base, and you get more regeneration at base. And nearby minions' health and damage are buffed. You know, this is, you know, we've got the nearby minions. We had that in Paragon, but this regen at base and team's recall, this is huge. Now, I'm going to assume that this only applies to people that are still alive when Prime goes down. And guys, I think there's a very, very cool aspect with Prime that, again, I love the way they're doing this. This is awesome. But Prime grants increased health and mana regeneration when out of combat and severely increases damage output for the player that picks the orb up. It also doubles the effectiveness, or the effect of any remnant buffs and grants a small damage increase if you use it for your team. Now, again, I'm explaining this, so I'll try to break this down a little bit more. Let's say your team goes in and kills Prime, and your team is, you know, y'all are doing work, y'all are at in-game, whatever, and Murdoch picks up the buff. Like, it's going to be like it used to be. It drops on the ground, Murdoch picks it up. He's going to get increased health and mana regeneration when out of combat and severely increased damage output. So, you know, yeah, that you want to channel that towards your damage dealing heroes. You know, if your Murdoch is 0-7, you probably want to give that to someone else. But if he's 15-2, yeah, give it to Murdoch. You know, that's only going to help him. But one thing he can do is dunk Prime. Now, it's not quite dunking, but that's what I'm going to call it. And what you do is there's going to be a specific place in the Prime pit that you channel. So if you actually have the Paragon Agora buff, which is picking up the orb, if you have that, you stand in this specific area, you channel it for, you know, I'm sure it'll probably take several seconds. You channel that, and then it gives a buff to your entire team. So, as the person that picks up the buff, you can choose, do I want to keep this, or do I want to help my team out? And let's say you only have, let's say you don't have any other remnants buffs. Let's say you don't have any of those. Well, you're not going to really help your team out because it's only a slight buff, and it doubles those buffs. So the way I see it is, yeah, if you're not picking up the other side objective, you should probably channel or funnel the Prime to your highest damage dealer because you get that significant boost in damage. But if y'all are doing great with the, you know, the secondary Prime objective, I guess, if y'all have got 3 or 4 of them, yeah, you're gonna double the effectiveness for everybody. Let's say you've got 2 speed buffs stacked up. Now you're going to have 4. That's incredible. I love this. This is going to add some just huge gameplay mechanics. You know, I think, you know, we might have to deal with trolls like, you know, Muriel picking it up. And it's like, oh, man. But still, that's huge. And I think the big thing that comes from this is, let's say it gets stolen, right? Let's say someone just sneakily comes in and steals it, they're going to get a huge increase to just them. But if they want to come give that buff to their team, they're going to have to come where your entire team is. And so you will effectively be able to take that buff away from them. Now, I don't know if the buff's going to drop on the ground where someone else can pick it up like it used to or not, but, you know, that's very, very cool. So it's you're rewarding the person that steals the buff, but not rewarding their entire team. And, you know, a lot of the times in Monolith, where someone would steal the buff, it would instantly flip the game, because the entire enemy team now has Prime and they're going to win the game. You know, that happened a lot. So this is going to kind of remove that aspect, as well as, let's say your team, y'all go for Prime in three of y'all are down. Maybe you can keep that buff for, you know, 20-30 seconds until your team spawns in, and then channel it in, and boom, and now your entire team has Prime. How cool would that be? I really love this aspect. I think there's so many things that, you know, we'll have to look in and see. And great. Look, I didn't point this out on the last video, but if you notice here, how he's moving while he's using his R2000. You know, it's much slower, but he's still moving. That rocket flies awful slow, though, guys. We actually get some Muriel gameplay right here, which is very, very cool. She missed her. So, if you saw right there, it looks like she's not going to be able to throw that buff at her feet and pick it up. That was one huge thing for Muriel. You know, when you ult over to somebody and you're saving someone's life, or, you know, your ADC dies and you get caught out now, you could use that buff to, you know, you pick it up, run faster. Now you're going to have to throw it in front of you, not at your feet. That's a big thing right there. You know, but, you know, again, we're in proof of concept. There's still a lot more work to be done. And here's Chimera and Muriel going in on Prime. Guys, I'm so pumped with how Prime is going to work. It's huge. It's absolutely huge. And then now, we actually get some combat, guys. They tease some combat. Check this out. We've got Muriel and Twin Blast. You can see the damage right there. And, you know, it looked like those were two basic attacks that hit Twin Blast right there. And, you know, there's the bubble. Remember, the bubble, it only did damage after it blew up, right? And so there's a basic attack, another basic attack, and she missed her little, you know, her little slowdown beam of doom. There's another bubble, but look at Twin Blast. You know, he's very, very low here. We actually don't get to see him die, but he would have definitely probably died from there. But look out how fast Twin Blast is jumping and dashing around the map. You know, he's very, very quick. You know, this huge open area, and there's so much room for him to get out of that minion wave. You know, get away, and you can see, look, he ran like way up there and jumped off. I'm pumped, guys. I'm pumped. Well, that's gonna wrap it up. You know, I highly recommend going and checking out the meta buff, the official video, because I think there was a lot of information in there. You know, I think it would definitely be nice to get a little bit more into the jungle buffs and how these random spawns are going to work. Because again, there are 6 camps. If only 4 spawn in at a time, you know, and they're random, you know, Mongoose actually said no one wants to play whack-a-mole earlier, and you know, I'd have to agree. You know, that there's definitely a aspect of you're running through the jungle and you don't know where to go. So hopefully that's a little bit more flushed out, or it can be explained a little bit better. We'll definitely have to wait and see. But thanks for watching, guys. I really hope y'all enjoyed, and if you did, show me some love. Leave me a comment. Think about subscribing, and as always, I'll see y'all in the next video.